Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Have you ever been in a really bad marriage or other romantic relationship and you ask yourself, how the hell did I get here and why am I not getting out? In this video, I'm going to ask you to see if you can relate to the dynamics of my first marriage, because it was not a great marriage. It fell apart, but I had an epiphany very recently and I realized that one of the major contributing factors to that marriage being bad and eventually falling apart was my own lack of authenticity. I was trying to be somebody other than who I really was. I know I've been talking about that a lot on this channel lately, but the more I look, the more that inauthenticity shows up, and it always causes problems. I got married at the age of 22. I was really young. And at the time, it was less about love and more about trying to assemble a perfect life. I was trying to tick off all the boxes. A common theme in my childhood was feeling like I didn't matter, like I wasn't important, like I didn't belong, and like there was something dreadfully wrong with me. And my teenage years were this constant back and forth with using drugs and addiction and being kind of a wild child, and also trying to fit myself back into a box where I would be a more acceptable person because I felt like there was something morally very wrong with me. When you do a psychological profile of me, I have very strong drives and very strong inhibitions, and that's a recipe for disaster. So by the time I'm 22, I'm in this conservative phase and this evangelical Christian phase, and I'd gotten involved with some network marketing and trying to be a good capitalist and Republican and all these sorts of things. And so I'm trying to put together this life that would make me a real boy. So I figured if I had a church and I got married and we had kids and we had a house and a dog and all these other things, I would check off all these, family values or whatever it was, but I was going to be a regular, real person. This was going to satisfy that constant gnawing feeling that there was something dreadfully wrong with me. So I was going to be good and become a model citizen. In order to do this, I had to put aside so much of who I really was, what makes me me. I had to put aside playing in bands. I had to put aside playing role-playing games because they were satanic or evil or something. I had to put aside a lot of my values, a lot of my curiosity, a lot of my intellect. I had to fit myself into this mold of not who I was, but who I thought I should be. So that's what I did. It was an experiment and an attempt to make myself a real person or feel better about myself, but I took somebody else with me. Now, my partner was not an angel, neither was I. It was a tumultuous marriage. I married somebody who was very judgmental, had a very strong personality. I don't know if in fact she's a narcissist, but she's very good at being condescending to other people, and I was very often the target of that. She had an idea of who I could be, what my potential was. She wanted to be married to another, I think Charles Spurgeon or something. Go look them up, some evangelical powerhouse, and that's not who I was. I was me, and very often, in so many different ways, I didn't live up to her expectations. In the way I tied my shoes, to how I, carried myself, a whole bunch of things. Even the car I drove was not good enough. I had a really bizarre experience years later talking to a therapist, talking about this marriage, and she said, "You realize that you were in an abusive relationship, right?" I'm like, well, no, I didn't think that at all. I thought she was a bitch, but I also was a terrible husband. There's all these things I did, all these shortcomings I had, and I was, back into addiction after 7.5 years of that. And she's like, oh no, you were in an abusive relationship. You weren't an angel either, but you were being abused every single day. Talking to my children now, they confirm that in fact nothing was ever good enough for their mother for them either. And she's not a terrible person. I don't want to throw her under the bus. That's not the point of this video. She has a lot of good qualities, but she was not a spectacular person to be married to, especially for me. But I ended up putting her in a bad position where I essentially stole years of her life from her because I came into the relationship pretending to be somebody that I wasn't. I was just trying very hard to be that person because I thought that's who I should be. Every time she shared her disappointment with me or was, condescending, well, I would withdraw more and I would become more rebellious. And every time I did that, well, she would even get more upset. And other women started to look like a very good idea as kind of like this escape valve. I did not act on that until we were about, I don't know, it's 8 years in, which I'm sorry to say. But, there were all kinds of things going on in the marriage. And we had these 2 kids, and I was staying there for the kids, but I was also staying there because I wasn't sure if I left, well, who am I now? I was living this life that I hated in several ways, being with her, being in the church, these various things that no longer fit anymore. In fact, they never did, but it was getting really, really apparent that this was a bad fit, and I was getting pressure from the church not to leave her as well, because that would be very bad. But there I was in this role that I put myself in that I was resenting more and more. And the more I deviated from being the husband that she wanted, the angrier and more aggressive she got. And about 7.5 years into the marriage, I started using again. And well, 15 years later, things were really, really bad. And I had 2 broken marriages behind me by that point. But I was already starting to try to escape that way as well. We got separated twice, as a matter of fact. I had an affair. That did not fix everything. That did not make me better. We got divorced. I moved into a place down the street from them, which was great because I could see the kids all the time until I finally lost my state job due to addiction. And then the thing that I had feared most, that I wouldn't be able to see my kids, actually happened as a result of that. Ironically, by clinging to a marriage that was killing me, I created the outcome that I feared the most. It was really eye-opening to realize that my biggest mistake was not failing as a husband, it wasn't not leaving earlier, it was failing to be who I really was, trying to be somebody else. And that ended up hurting me, it ended up hurting her, and it ended up hurting our kids in the long run. I would do it all over again because I love my children and my grandchildren now. But it was not a great situation, and my fear of being who I really was created a lot of it. And that message that you're not good enough, well, it came from society and my parents and teachers and peers and all these other things that I talk about. So it's important to push back. My marriage did not fall apart because I picked the wrong person. Well, kind of. She was the wrong person. But it was because I was living inauthentically. I didn't believe that I had value being myself, so I had to build this perfect life to prove that I had value, and I had to put on this facade so that I felt like I belonged, that I was actually a real and good person. I had to prove myself to you and to me. And not surprisingly, that false self was unsustainable. It attracted criticism, contempt, and finally, collapse. It may sound overly dramatic, but what I understand now is when you live inauthentically, it will destroy you, and you'll drag other people down with you as well. My marriage was the stage or the outward appearance, but the real battle was inside me, the struggle between the person I thought I should be and the real me trying to break free. So when you feel that battle, do yourself a favor, sit down and really examine this. Who is the real me? Why are they trying to break free? And why am I trying to be this other person? Is this who I really want to be, or is this who I think I'm supposed to be? Thanks a lot for watching, kids. I would really love to hear your comments on this video. If you think I'm crazy or a crybaby, or if you resonate with some of this, if you had similar experiences. And if you like the video, go ahead and like it. If you'd like to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. And I'll put a video somewhere around here that you should watch because it's just as cool as I am. Have a good one, kids.